Welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Sorry about the lateness of the hour. I was just getting a few technical things set up because we're doing a deep dive today into the history, geography and economics and politics of Kashmir. And we'll be learning why this region matters after things kicked off at around 9:30 last night. So hello everyone in the chat. We've got SG in there. It's not as if we're close to nuclear Armageddon or anything. I wouldn't go that far, but let's talk about it. Trump cannot even distinguish a Photoshop courier font on someone's hand as a tattoo. Oh my God, I laughed so hard at that one. I nearly spat along out, says Captain Coconut. If you'd like to join Captain Coconut and Reagan Elite and Diz and Luna and Leapshin and UK Medsy and Joanna and Scott in the chat, all you need to do is hit that big juicy subscribe button and just wait for a minute, and then you'll be able to opine. Listen, don't be a troll because we'll just mute you and boot you. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the Hughes of the World feed. This is normally what you see on Hughes of the World if you join me for that. And here you can see a map of the world. This is the world as we know it, as it stands at the moment. And if we zoom in here, we've got India. I'm going to just make the labels a bit bigger, a bit easier to read. Okay, so you got India here, you got Pakistan here, you got Lahore here, and Islamabad. Islamabad is the capital. Lahore is one of the biggest cities, along with Karachi in Pakistan. Okay, so if we zoom in a little bit here, you'll see all these dotted lines. See all these dotted lines? Yeah, these are disputed. These are disputed territory boundaries between different countries. It doesn't actually tell you on this map who claims each bit, but I will tell you. So Jammu, so this whole area here above Himachal Pradesh. So this bit, this dotted line here, and all around this dotted line, this is generally known as Kashmir. In fact, though, Kashmir is just one part of it, and there's also Ladakh over here. We also have this area over here, which the name isn't coming up, which is really annoying me. Come on, hello, give me names. Why is it not? Anyway, this area up here is called Gilgit and Hindubad, I think. I'm just gonna have to look this up. Hang on a sec. Why Google Maps? Why are you letting me down so badly? I hate you. I hate you forever. Trying to explain how the bloody let's have a look. I was just hoping that there'll be a wonderful little map there on Wikipedia, but there isn't, because just the internet hates me today. There is a map, but it's really hard to read. Nope, that's no good at all. That's a historic map. It's got Hyderabad on it. Don't need Hyderabad. Just 1 second. I'll just look into images, maps. No, because that'll bring up Google Maps, won't it? Sorry, everyone in the chat. This is as excruciating for you as it is for me. I'll tell you what. We'll go to the BBC website, and we can have go to. Oh no, that's not even any good either, because it's got a updated thing that's just updating all the time. It doesn't actually show you a map of the area. That's easy to see. I've got some maps up, but they're pretty hard to differentiate. Let's have a look. Hang on. There we go. Research. Thank you, ResearchGate. You're awesome. I'll just bring that up. Oh no, it's not letting me look at it. What the hell? Okay, so accept. Oh my God, this is absolutely painful. Right, save image, PNG, that's fine. And then if we go to there and, hello. We can open this. Right. For the love of God. Right, okay, so here's a really, really shit map of the area, just so you get your bearings. I can see that it's a bit complicated to see on the old, the other map there. So we've got, this whole area is generally known as Kashmir. However, this is Jammu and Kashmir down here, which is administered by India, which is supposedly secular, but it's more and more sort of Hindu nationalist. Baltistan. Not Hindustan. I don't know why I said Hindustan. Baltistan there, which is run by the Pakistani control. This area here is like a big glacier. I don't think anyone lives here, but this was gifted to China in the 1960s by Pakistan. This area here, Aksi Chin, has a major road going through it, connecting the rest of China, well, Tibet, over to the Xinjiang area over here, which is where the Uyghur Muslims are. And that's been occupied by China since 1962. People think that this whole conflict is just India and Pakistan. It's not. It's India, Pakistan, and China. And then there's this area here called Azad Kashmir, which is under Pakistani control. So I'll get rid of that for the moment, and we'll have a look back at the normal map here. So you can see here, this area up top is all Pakistan. That's been run by Pakistan for decades and decades. And so is this little slither of land here on this side. And then we've got Jammu and Kashmir, and we've got Ladakh over here. This bit on the right, as I said, this is part of China, nominally. And this little slither here is also part of China. Sorry that Google Maps is so shite, and it doesn't actually show what I want to show very well. But there you go. That's the situation. Okay, so got to understand why this region matters. It's a strategic location, right? Jammu and Kashmir sits at a crossroads of Central Asia, South Asia, and East Asia. It borders India, Pakistan, and China, three nuclear powers with long-standing territorial disputes. The region also shares proximity with Afghanistan via Gilgit-Baltistan, and that adds to its geostrategic importance. And the thing is, why is it so important? Because it's up in the Himalayas. Why do they want the Himalayas, I hear you cry? It's just some rocks up in the air. Yeah, water sources. Kashmir is home to the headwaters of the Indus River system, including the Jhelum, Chenab, and Ravi rivers. These are crucial for agriculture and hydroelectric power in both India and Pakistan. Control over Kashmir gives a country an upstream leverage over water flow. This is why they're fighting. It's about water. It's not about territory. It's not about the people who live there. It's about controlling the headwaters of this insanely huge river complex. So the Indus River runs all the way to the sea via Pakistan. It goes through Pakistan, but it has got loads of offshoots, many of whom go through India. The rivers don't usually follow the lines that humans want to draw on maps or human settlements so much. They just tend to find their own course. So some of these rivers, some of these water courses go into Jammu and Kashmir and come out again. Some others go into, start up in Pakistan, go into India. Some start in India, go into Pakistan. So there was a treaty in 1960. Despite ongoing hostility, India and Pakistan signed a treaty dividing river usage. India controls the eastern rivers, the Ravi, the Sutlej, and the Beas River, or the Bias River. Pakistan gets the western ones, which includes the Indus, the Jhelum, and the Chenab. The Indian control of Kashmir gives it leverage over rivers flowing into Pakistan, making Pakistan extremely sensitive to any Indian infrastructure projects in the region. The region is rich in natural beauty and resources, and it would be a natural place for people for tourism. There's glaciers, there's potential for hydroelectric projects, there's skiing, for Christ's sake. It makes it economically valuable, but the main thing they care about is the water. Indian-administered Kashmir saw over 22 million tourists in 2023, a vital source of income that's now threatened by the conflict. The population is majority Muslim in the Kashmir Valley, while Hindu and Buddhist populations dominate Jammu and Ladakh, respectively, which means that you've got three main religions all vying for a piece of this. Well, actually four, because if you include China, they're Buddhist, nominally Buddhist. So you've got Muslim, and that's split into Shia and Sunni Muslims that both live in that area, Hindu and also Sikh. It was ruled by the Muslims, by the Mughals. It was run by the Sikhs. Then it was run by the Hindus. So it's been we'll get into it. We'll get into it. The diversity adds cultural richness, but it does lead to sectarian tension exploited by nationalist governments in both countries. And as I said yesterday, if you were watching Geoscope, I think it'd be better if we had a referendum to find out what the actual people who live in Kashmir would like to do. So ancient Kashmir was historically a center of Hinduism and Buddhism before becoming predominantly Muslim by the 14th century. Its unique culture developed due to influences of centuries of Persian, Central Asian, and Indian influence. The Mughal and Afghan rule started at around as part of the Mughal Empire, which was about 1580s. That started, and that ran until about the 1750s. So that's a good, nearly 200 years there. It was ruled over 200 years, nearly 300 years. It was then ruled by the Afghans and then later by the Sikhs under Ranjit Singh. Each regime left cultural and political legacies, but none resolved the question of Kashmiri self-rule. The Dogra rule of 1846 to 1947, this was after the First Anglo-Sikh War. The British sold Kashmir to Gulab. So up to this point, it was run by the Sikhs. The Sikhs were running it until 1846, at which point the British had the Anglo-Sikh War and Kashmir was sold, which they won. The Kashmir was sold to a guy called Gulab Singh, a Hindu Dogra ruler under what was called the Treaty of Amritsar, which is in India proper now. It's where the Golden Temple. It's the second most holy site of. It is the most holy site of the Sikh religion. Thus began a century of Hindu autocratic rule over a majority Muslim population, which planted the seeds for future unrest. And you know what? Even before the Hindus were running the place, like under the Sikhs, the Muslims were not treated very well. Let's put it that way. So you imagine an area, it was Buddhist and Hindu. Then came the Mughals. It became Muslim for 300 years. It was ruled by Muslims. Most of the people living there were Muslims. And then suddenly one day the Sikhs decided that they're going to take over. It's not quite what happened, but they took over for 100 years or so. And they treated the Muslim population really, really badly. And then it was taken over by a Hindu ruler who also treated the majority Muslim people living there really, really badly. Colonial contradictions. The Kashmir was supposedly a princely state. It was technically independent, but under British suzerainty, which is like British rule, but you're allowed to do your own thing. In a partition in 1947, princely states were given over to, they're given the choice in 1947. They were given the choice by the British administration to either join India or Pakistan. And the Dogra Maharaja, Hari Singh, his name was at the moment, Hari spelled Hari, not Harry like Harry Styles. Hari Singh, he was a Hindu ruling over a Muslim majority state, and he dithered. He didn't decide in the August of 1947, when partition happened, he didn't decide which side to go on. So this led to the First Kashmir War, 1947 to 1948. When British India was divided into India and Pakistan, princely states could choose which nation to join, right? Or remain independent. So famously, Hyderabad, which is this huge area in the middle of what's now India, chose to remain independent, which seems mad now. And it was annexed by India later on. Same with Goa, same with Pondicherry. These places, they wanted to remain independent, and India was like, okay then. And then after a while, it went no. Under Jammu and Kashmir, under Maharaja Hari Singh, hesitated, like I said, and he was Hindu under a population of 77% Muslim population. Pakistan expected Kashmir to accede to it, and what happened was there was an invasion in 1947, in October of 1947, so 2 months after partition. Wrong conflict, Graham. Pakistan-backed Pashtun tribal militias invaded Kashmir to pressure ascension to Pakistan. And these were like irregulars. This was like, you know what Putin did in Crimea? Quite similar. Facing imminent collapse, Hari Singh requested military aid from India, which required Kashmir to formally accede to India, right? So he said, can you help us out here? And India's like, well, we will, but only if you accede to us. The instrument of accession, which was signed in October the 26th, the end of October 1947, India accepted Kashmir's accession, sending in troops. And Pakistan rejected the legitimacy of this document, claiming it was coerced or invalid due to the invasion that they had done. The UN got involved and the fighting escalated into the First Indo-Pak War. In January 1948, India appealed to the UN, which called for a ceasefire and proposed a plebiscite, a referendum, after Pakistani withdrawal. A referendum that never happened. A referendum that was promised 77 years ago that never actually happened. The 1949 line of control, this ended the war in January 1949 with the UN brokered ceasefire. Kashmir was split. India controlled 60% of it, including Jammu, Kashmir Valley, and Ladakh, which I've shown you. That's the southern half of what's the whole area known as Kashmir. Pakistan now held about 30%. That was now called Azad Jammu and Kashmir, which is to the west of Indian Kashmir, quite close to Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. And the north bit, which is quite a large chunk, which is called Gilgit Baltistan. China would enter the fray later on. They built a road. And like nobody knew. And then it was like India found out, and they were like, "Hey, what are you doing building the road in our territory?" And the Chinese were like, "Hey, we've done a deal with Pakistan. Honest." So this referendum was never held, and India later argued that Pakistan's failure to withdraw the troop invalidated the plebiscite promise. Over time, both sides hardened their positions, turning Kashmir into a permanent flashpoint, leading to the Second Kashmir War in 1945. In 1945, Pakistan launched Operation Gibraltar. I mean, we're getting our geographical references all set everywhere, aren't we? Sending soldiers disguised as Kashmiri locals to incite rebellion against Indian rule in the Kashmir Valley. By the way, just to go back to the First War, right, in 1947-48, right? There were British commanders, right? British commanders working for both sides. I shit you not. At the time, there was a British commander put there by the British government of the time who was in charge of the Pakistan, well, not in charge, but, advising the Pakistani forces. And there was another British officer who was advising the British. Madness. They used to talk on the phone. They used to call each other each morning and say, well, we're thinking of invading this bit. What do you feel about that? My God, just the maddest time. What a time to be alive. You think these days are crazy? Any bit of craziness you see these days is going to be countered by the craziness that has come in the past. I'm going to add a goal because I don't feel like I'm going to get too many super chats for this show because obviously I'm talking about history and I don't know how much... I don't know how much you lot care. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a goal in, right? And if we get, what are we on? We've got a past now. If we get 10 super chats of any colour in the next 30 minutes, I'll talk about something else. So back to 1965. India's counteroffensive. India responded forcefully, crossing the international border into Pakistani Punjab. The conflict escalated beyond Kashmir with a full-scale war fought in Punjab, which is in Pakistan, and Rajasthan, which is in northern India. Tashkent Agreement, which was brokered by the Soviet Union. Tashkent is the capital of Uzbekistan. This was brokered in January 1966. Both sides agreed to withdraw to pre-conflict positions. No borders changed, and the line of control was reinforced as the de facto boundary, but not recognized formally by Pakistan. Oh, the butterfly wings. Thank you very much. Learning a lot from you, Graham. Thank you for bringing the history of other countries to us as the butterfly wings. Oh, that's really kind of you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about the impact on the Kashmiris, the people living in this place that's being battled over by three freaking superpowers. The war further militarized the region, increased suspicion of local populations, and intensified human rights abuses and repression. This led to the Kargil War, which was in 1999. So, not that long ago. Not that long ago. Oh, we got a couple of super chats. We'll talk about that in a moment. Oh, that's effing great. We're already entering the water wars phase. I like history, actually, says Katrina. Well, yeah, you're right in a way, but I'll come back to that in a moment, Katrina. Thank you so much for the super chat. Just to give a big shout out to Alistair for the £1 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, you're right. But not for the reason you might think. You might think this is a water war because of drinking water, but it's not. These kind of wars have gone on all through the 20th century, or skirmishes, conflicts, things like that, where there's a river flowing into someone else's country, and the country that the country that holds the headwaters decides to dam it, and this creates problems. There's been conflict between Ethiopia and Sudan and Egypt. There's been instances of these sort of water wars all over the world, where most places, we need clean water. We need water coming down from the mountains into our countries to have a human population there. And if the people upstream are doing crazy stuff, if they're putting in a dam, or they're filling it with sewage, or they're doing something else, this creates tension. And this is nothing new. This isn't to do with the fact that we're running out of water because all of our glaciers are melting because of climate change. This is slightly different. Although, when the glaciers do melt and the rivers dry up, maybe this whole thing will be mute. I don't know. Paula, thank you very much. Harry Singh's name suggests a Sikh background elsewhere. Yeah, it does. But he was a Hindu ruler. But yeah, he was continuing the line of Sikh secession in a way. But yeah, Hindu is. I don't want to speak ill of Sikhism, and I don't know enough about it. I haven't done my research today to go definitively, but I'm pretty sure that Sikhism was an offshoot of Hinduism in the same way that Christianity was an offshoot of Judaism, and also Islam was an offshoot of Judaism. Similar practices, similar beliefs, and so yeah, I don't think it was that much of a leap for people to go from being Hindu to being Sikh, or from being Sikh to go to Hindu. Vice versa. So, but people might be able to correct me on that. There's any Sikh people watching who wants to put me right. But as far as I know, Sikhism's quite a modern religion compared with Hinduism, which goes back thousands of years. But Sikhism, is it 300 years, 400 years, something like that? Someone tell me in the chat. I'm sure you can. If you're not Sikh yourself and you don't know, just look it up. Thank you very much to Stephen Wallace for the £5 super chat. It's very kind of you. Thank you very much also to Veg Pie for the 80p. That's brilliant. Thank you. And also Zolt Pal. Thank you very much. Thank you, Graham, for history lessons. I enjoy most of your shows. We need to know about history and geography to understand politics. Yes, we absolutely do. So let's dip into the Kargil War of 1999. So this is about Pakistan's incursion in May 1999. Pakistani soldiers and militants crossed the line of control and occupied strategic high-altitude positions in Kargil and in Kargil and Ladakh, territory within Indian-administered Kashmir. Why Kargil? Well, Pakistani's military dictatorship under General Pervez Musharraf at the time aimed to cut out Indian supply lines to the Siachen Glacier to internationalize the Kashmir issue after nuclear tests in 1998 by both countries. So this is a response to nuclear testing by both countries, not just India, but both countries going on. The saber rattling to end all saber rattling. Don't forget, this is at a time when the Soviet Union had collapsed and we were pushing towards an era of de-escalation and denuclearization of the world's weapons. Getting rid of these nuclear freaking weapons that could wipe out all of humanity. Anne Phillips, thank you very much. Maybe we could start respecting our water supply instead of dumping sewage in it, and that would be a wonderful thing. Thank you for the super chat. Optimistic nihilist, ultranationalism is on the rise globally, but it's no longer US hegemony getting what it wants, but an eclectic mix of nations fighting each other and doing bilateral deals that may or may not be honoured. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And thank you for the super chat. And Ori says, I love history, not so much when I'm living through it. Thanks so much for the super chat there, Ori, and I couldn't agree more. Lisa, I wish there was like a safe distance. You know, like when you watch a movie, it's not actually happening to you. There's a safe distance. Yeah, that's what we want with history. We want a safe distance. Lisa, thank you very much. I'm ashamed to say my knowledge of the region is very poor, so I'm finding this very interesting. Thank you very much, Lisa. That's very, very kind of you. And yeah, I'll talk about this until I get to a point where I've finished what I want to talk about, and I'll talk about something else for a little bit. We'll go to the papers. So India's response after weeks of heavy fighting in extreme conditions up in like the mountains. In 1999, they were fighting like literally up in the snow of the Himalayas. Indian forces pushed the infiltrators back, and the US and other countries pressured Pakistan to withdraw. There were over 500 Indian and an estimated 400 to 700 Pakistani soldiers who died in this conflict. This was the only war fought between two nuclear-armed states, raising alarms like globally. I mean, it was squeaky bum time, like it is now. The aftermath of it, so don't forget that was the first time that two nuclear-armed powers were going at it, right, in history. And now it's happening again. So the aftermath of this, India's military prestige rose while Pakistan's operation was internationally condemned. Yet the Kashmir situation remained unresolved. And still no plebiscite, no referendum, no asking the people who actually lived there what they wanted. And then we also need to talk about China's role in Kashmir. So the Aksai Chin, this is the 1950s to 1962, when China occupied the Aksai Chin area, and a sparsely populated but strategic area, which was claimed by India as part of Ladakh. China built a highway through it, as I mentioned earlier, in the 1950s, which triggered tensions and led to the 1962 Sino-Indian War, when, like, China and India went to war. China defeated India after this war and retained Aksai Chin. It also controls the Saksum is called Saksum Valley, which was ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963, which also continues to be disputed by India. Their attitude is, well, it wasn't Pakistan's to give away. So now, today, we have this three-way dispute. We have China controlling Aksai Chin, which is about 20% of pre-1947 Kashmir. Pakistan controls about 30% of pre-1947 Kashmir, and India holds 50%. This makes Kashmir one of the most contested territories in the world, and it's contested by three nuclear powers. I can't emphasize this enough. China's interest, the strategic control of the Tibetan Plateau, the Belt and Road Initiative, and that gives them infrastructure in Baltistan, and countering US-India cooperation. This all factors into China's Kashmir policy. And then we've got the recent escalate. I can't even say this. Escalation. What the hell's wrong with my mouth today? Do you know this happened when I was doing my audio book of my book, Man of the World? There were some words that I just couldn't say. I write them fine, but like when it came to like saying them out loud, it was like escalation. I always had a problem with Afghanistan when I was a kid, and Aberystwyth. I just couldn't say these. And when I was a little kid, I couldn't say spaghetti. I just couldn't say it. And even to this day, when I say Aberystwyth, I literally have to change it in my mind to three words. Aber, like the band, wrist, as in your wrist, and with, going somewhere with someone else. I have to change it into three words, or I can't say it. It's a weird little thing. I saw an interview once with Stephen Fry where he was talking about the fact that he couldn't say the word pocketed it. He just couldn't say it on the audiobook for some Harry Potter novel. And I got it. I absolutely got it. Anyway, escalation, recent escalation. But before then, we have had a £50 mega chat. Thank you so much from SG. I am Indian, though now British for the last 27 years, born and brought up in India. My father was in the Indian Air Force, fought in the 62, 65 and 71 wars. This history of the region is impossibly complex. Thanks for talking about it, Graham. Thanks. Wow. I mean, that is crazy. And so 62 was the war with China. 65 was the war with Pakistan. And 71 was another war with Pakistan, but not over Kashmir. It was over East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. And India went on the side of Bangladesh for independence from the rest of Pakistan. Because when India was divided, it was actually only divided in two, but it was actually divided into three. So it was divided into India and Pakistan, but Pakistan became West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And East Pakistan is now known as Bangladesh. It's a country in its own right. Thank you so much for the mega chat, SG. I really, really appreciate it a lot. And it gives me, reason for doing this. Okay, so moving on. The recent escalation. The last month in Kashmir, on the 22nd of April last month, there was the Pahalgam attacks. This killed 26 tourists. Pahalgam is a popular tourist town in India-administered Kashmir. On the 22nd of April, militants opened fire on tourists, killing 26. Most were Hindu men, including families on pilgrimage and on holiday. India blamed the Resistance Front, the TRF, an alleged proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, a Pakistani-based group with a long record of militant activity in Kashmir. The TRF initially claimed responsibility via a social media post, which was later retracted, by the way. They claimed it was made by someone else with unauthorized access. Pakistan denied any involvement, called for evidence, and demanded an international investigation. India rejected that and vowed retaliation. So, India's military response. This is Operation Sindoor. So, on the 6th of May, yesterday, night strikes across the line of control. India launched this Operation Sindoor. They're calling it, striking 9 targets in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir between 1:05 and 1:30 Indian time. The stated aim was to destroy terrorist infrastructure. That's what India claimed. They said that strikes were measured, they weren't going to escalate anything, and they were focused, right? No Pakistani military or civilian infrastructure was targeted. The operation was intended to prevent further attacks and deter cross-border militancy. However, Pakistan's response was 6 civilian locations were struck, including a mosque, a school, and residential areas in Muzaffarabad and Kotli, and also Bahawalpur. They claim that 26 civilians were killed, including children, and 46 wounded. So much for avoiding escalation, India. They accused India of violating sovereignty and international law, and this has led to escalation now. On the ground, cross-border artillery shelling erupted along the line of control, especially in the Poonch and Rajuni district on the Indian side. And India is now reporting, the latest that I've seen is 10 civilians have been killed and 32 have been injured. Pakistan is reporting over 24 killed, including women and children. Pakistan's military claimed it shot down 5 Indian aircraft and a drone. India has not confirmed this. There's been airspace closure. Pakistan has closed airspace over Lahore, Karachi, and parts of Punjab. India has suspended civilian flights over border states like Jammu, Amritsar, Leh, etc. And international carriers like Lufthansa, Air France, and Emirates have all rerouted away from the region. This is really getting serious now, which is worrying, but I would temper that worry because this has happened before. This is nothing new. This isn't like this conflict is something that has always, led to an all-out war between India and Pakistan. In fact, the last time this happened in 1999, arguably it didn't lead to an all-out war. It ended in a skirmish up in the mountains. But you know, why is we were talking about this before about the water? Like, why is Kashmir so strategic? Well, it's a mountainous glacier fed. It's mountainous. It's glacier fed, and it sits on the junction, like I said earlier, of South and Central Asia. It borders India, Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan. The region controls key headwaters, and these headwaters feed Pakistan's entire agricultural heartland. So control over Kashmir equals control over Pakistan's water security. If India take it over and they want to blackmail Pakistan, they can dam up those rivers and they can starve the people of Pakistan. This is why Pakistan sees control of Kashmir as an existential threat to their to their existence, which is what existential means. So, India and Pakistan have signed the Indus Waters Treaty in 1960, giving Pakistan rights to most rivers. But rising tensions have led to calls to withdrawal from this. When we look at the actual regional identity, it is a Muslim majority population, but there is a Hindu majority in Indian areas that is, the India-controlled areas at the moment, which is a legacy of partition. Kashmir is central to both states' nationhood myths. For Pakistan, Kashmir is the unfinished business of partition. For India, maintaining Kashmir's territorial integrity is central to what they see as national unity, especially under the Hindu nationalist governments like the BJP, like Modi's government. So what happens now? There is the worry about escalation, retaliation cycle. Pakistan promises a response at a time and place of its choosing. India has said it acted in self-defense and proportionately, which is what always happens. But these tit-for-tat strikes and mass mobilization risk war between two nuclear powers. And I can't emphasize this enough. This is a really bad time for this to happen, okay? Because America's out the equation. America, which we criticize all the freaking time about the fact that it goes into countries where it doesn't belong and topples a democratically elected government to put their person in, their man in charge. Yeah, I get that. But the other side of this is that America was very effective at peacekeeping in certain areas, getting these conflicts to simmer down. It's not going to be taking that position in this at all. I doubt Trump knows anything about India, Pakistan, the history, Kashmir. I really doubt he knows anything about any of that. And I doubt even more that he cares. So then we've got domestic pressures. In India, Modi faces election within the year. Strongman responses play well domestically. Pakistan, the military is under scrutiny after political upheaval, and they're using the crisis to rally national sentiment, as often happens. We talk about the invasion of the Falklands. The invasion of the Falklands was done not because, there was this pressing desire for the people of the Falklands to be liberated from the tyrannical yoke of British rule, and they actually wanted to be Argentinian. No, there was a junta that was running, a military junta that was running Argentina into the ground in the 1970s and 1980s. And they were losing support hand over fist, and it was a bit of a mea culpa. Not a mea culpa. That's the wrong word. It was a bit of a last chance saloon for them to stay in power because they know that this kind of thing rallies national sentiment. It always does, like going into a war, winning a war. Yay, national sentiment. It usually helps, but not always. And I think the really good example of this is the fact that George H.W. Bush, George Bush Sr., he oversaw the invasion of, not the invasion, the Gulf War, which got the country of Kuwait, which was at that time under occupation by Iraqi forces. It got the Iraqi forces out of Kuwait. It was actually a success. And it also allowed for the north of Iraq, the Kurdish region, Kurdistan in North Iraq. It also allowed that to become an autonomous area. And it was, as far as the war aims of that conflict were concerned, jobs are good. They did it. And yet, George W. Bush was only a one-term. George H.W. Bush was only a one-term president. He didn't win. He lost. He lost to Bill Clinton with the line, "It's the economy, stupid." Not Tulsi, but Tulsi Gabbard does, says Paula Thomas. Yeah, I really doubt that. Anyway, so the UN's called for restraint. China has expressed regret over India's strike and supports de-escalation. The US so far has, under Trump, has stayed neutral, but Rubio has been briefed and might push for back-channel mediation. That remains to be seen. Iran's foreign minister is in Delhi at the moment after visiting Islamabad, and may work as a possible intermediary. And the Indian sort of government's position. I mean, the context is Modi's going to be seeking re-election within the next 12 months. The BJP thrives on muscular nationalism to survive, as a political entity, and they have done since the 1990s, and especially on Pakistan and Kashmir, they have been historically militaristic, and they've turned military escalations into electoral assets in the past, as they did in 2019. The Pahalgam massacre has generated massive public anger and media pressure for the government to do something against Pakistan. Pakistan hasn't admitted that this was them. This could have just been a bunch of lunatics who had nothing to do with Pakistan, because I really doubt that at the moment, the way the world situation is, it wasn't really in Pakistan's interest to be mounting up problems for themselves. It's a grim situation to be in, and this preemptive counter-terrorism strike by India, they're saying it's not war, and it says that it avoided civilian and military targets, but it totally did, according to the Pakistanis. They're saying you totally did this, and the goal there for the Indians is to signal strength without crossing Pakistan's nuclear red lines. Keeping the airstrikes limited. This to try and avoid full-on war, which we really do want to stop. The rhetoric is focused on justifying retaliation under self-defense, Article 51 of the UN Charter. And Delhi wants to protect regional leadership to resolve resolve the situation while pressuring Pakistan internationally. So as far as the Sharif government is concerned in Pakistan, the context is Pakistan is under intense domestic pressure. The military is facing public criticism after political instability and crackdowns. Don't forget they put Imran Khan in jail. The previous leader, the cricketer, he's in jail at the moment, as far as I'm aware. The civilian government is weak, with real power. The real power lies with the army, which views Kashmir as a core strategic and ideological issue. Things aren't looking so great at the moment. And the Council for Islamic Cooperation and China are condemning everything that's going on at the moment. And India is, it's saying that when these other countries get involved, like India, like Iran or China or America, that they say, "Oh, you're just trying to internationalize the crisis," and it's like, well, this affects us all. This affects everyone, and this is why there needs to be a place for a global peacekeeper. And one of the downfalls, I think, of the UN is that it's made up of countries that look after their own sovereign interests. There's no one looking after the planet at the UN. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no one whose job it is to think strategically about the future of the planet as a whole. It's always, just your country or just your region that places seem to care about. So it's a worry, and there's scenarios here that controlled escalation. Pakistan conducts a symbolic counter strike, shells Indian ports or airstrikes on open targets. India absorbs or responds minimally. Both sides claim victory, and international actors like US, China, Iran broker de-escalation. That's the most likely outcome. That's what happened in 2019. when the Balakot conflict kicked off. The scenario 2, cycle of tit-for-tat attacks. So another Indian civilian target is hit, or Pakistan targets Indian infrastructure. Air battles or special ops raids escalate over the line of control, and possible cross-border hostage or POW situation would add fuel to the fire. This would fuel a major international panic. The US Gulf states or China may have to step in. The third scenario number 3, full-scale conflict. Both countries mobilize tens of thousands of troops along the line of control on Punjab border. War spills over into Punjab in India, Rajasthan in India, Sindh, with airstrikes and tank battles. Nuclear risk does remain low, I've got to say, just to bring the fear factor down a little bit, especially if command, but they're not zero, but they remain low. But if command structures break down or there's misinformation about a nuclear move, that is always a worry, especially in countries where people don't always speak the same language as each other. One of the fascinating things that you find when you travel around India is you'll get two people talking to each other in English, even though they're both Indian. And you're like, why are you talking in English? And like, well, because they speak Hindi and I speak a different language. Like, that's not my language. I don't speak that. And so someone said to me once, it's so naive of us to know really what we're talking about, which I thought was quite funny. But that there is a worry. There is a worry about possible miscommunication leading to something very, very serious. There is another scenario. Pakistan leverages non-state actors like militant groups, as mentioned before, to hit India elsewhere. India would retaliate with cyber warfare, airstrikes or cross-border raids, and this proxy war could ignite Hindu-Muslim tensions within India, which are already kind of simmering away there. The Muslim population, which is 200 million people, it's a huge number, but it's nearly 3 times the population of Britain are Muslims living in India, and they are feeling sidelined at the moment. They are feeling very, very marginalized. And tensions between the Hindu community in India and Muslim community, they've never been perfect. Let's not paint a rosy picture of everything. There was never a time when Hindu kids and Muslim kids were skipping down the roads, singing songs. But it's particularly bad at the moment. Not least because a movie came out recently talking about the son of the guy who built the Taj Mahal, or ordered the building of the Taj Mahal. His son was a fucking monster who killed his brothers to become the leader. He then took over vast swathes of what's now India. He imprisoned his father, who built the Taj Mahal, in the Agra fort on a little balcony. His room had a balcony, and you can go there now. You can go to Agra, you go to the fort at Agra, where the Taj Mahal is, and you can look out. You can look out from this balcony where this guy's dad had to sort of look out and see this beautiful monument, the teardrop on the cheek of humanity. He wasn't allowed out. He was under house arrest. And this Hindu ruler, he ruled with an absolute iron fist. This Muslim ruler. He ruled with an iron fist, and he massacred Hindus left, right, and centre, and Sikhs and Buddhists and any Christians he could find, I assume. And people hadn't really heard about the situation, like what he had done. And it was a bit like when Braveheart came out, and the amount of Scottish nationalism went up because they were like, "What? The English did what? The English did what?" Although Braveheart wasn't particularly historically inaccurate. He did manage to get the Queen pregnant with his child, when in reality William Wallace was put to death when the Queen was the future Queen wasn't a queen. She was a child, and I think she lived in Spain. But look, I'm getting away from the subject here. Tensions between Hindus and Muslims are not great at the moment. They're quite high in India, and this could lead to further in sectarian conflict within India, and also further human rights abuses in Kashmir, which is not great. I'm hoping for the de-escalation scenario, the first scenario where they have a little bit of a tit for tat. We'll see what happens today. But I hope I've given you a little bit of background there on what the hell is going on in Kashmir. I'm sorry the maps weren't very good. I had it in my head that I'll be able to like zoom in on Google Maps and it would just be very clearly labeled. Like it would say Jammu and Kashmir, and then in brackets it would say India controlled or something. But it wasn't going to be that simple, was it? Damn you, Google Maps. Someone's going to say, you should have used OpenStreet Graham. Yeah, maybe next time. Maybe next time. So anyway, I'm just going to nip over to the papers in a moment because I'm just coming up to the 10 o'clock mark. There you go. Norway were open to American Translunar X. Check out Norway too. In India, if you go to the next village, they speak a different language. Yeah. And that's why the communications situation, when there's nuclear weapons involved, is a little bit of a worry because you will have commanders talking in English, possibly, or some other lingua franca, and it will be their second language. It will be their second language and the second. And if you think about what communications are like on the battlefield, when you're screaming into a walkie-talkie, it's not that clear at the best of times. So that's always a worry. What else have we got here? Graham, you could have just drawn on the map, says Joanna. How do I draw on the map? How do I do that on Google Maps? Can you draw on Google Maps? Can you draw? How do you draw? How do you draw on Google Maps? I don't know how to do that. Is that something that you can do? I'm intrigued now. I've closed it. I've closed the thing. How do you draw on it? Just tell me. Just tell me in the chat if you can. If you can just say it really simply. If there's a draw function and how to draw. That'd be good. I can draw like circles around stuff. That'd be excellent for Hughes of the World, to be honest with you. This just got worse. Kashmir crisis live. India strikes on Pakistan, and Pakistan administered Kashmir killed 26. Pakistan says 5 Indian jets shot down from the Guardian. Yeah, I've just said that, Paula. Yeah, that happened before my show started. Now we know why my Kashmir jacket I bought a while ago had so many holes in it. Very good, Captain Coconut. Google's going downhill these days, a lot of it about. The scene in Braveheart really grinds my gears. It's the one where Edward Longshanks throws the guy out a window, and somehow there's no record of this in history. Yes. Yeah, and he throws him out the window for being gay. Nice bit of homophobia there from Mel Gibson, everyone's favourite racist, anti-Semitic, wife-beating homophobe. What a gobshite. So I'm going to just have a look at the papers in a moment. But before I do that, I just want to show you, I'm going to share with you a link here, which is really important. And our mutual friend, Rachel, sent this to us yesterday for us to have a look at. So please, can you have a look at that? And what it is, it's about Amendment NC21 to the what's it called? The bill, the internet bill that's going through Parliament at the moment. It's the Data Use and Access Bill. This is a proposed addition. It's been tabled by Conservative MPs, and it would legally require public bodies to record sex only as male or female at birth. It will only allow public records to include a transgender's acquired gender if they hold a gender recognition certificate, and that's only 2% of the people who are transgender in this country. And then it must be recorded alongside, not instead of, their sex at birth. This is going to lead to misgendering, loss of recognition, exclusion of most trans people. It's outing and safety risks, erosion of privacy and or bodily autonomy, and it creates a two-tier system. So please have a look at that link, and if you can write a letter, if you go to that link, and I know the adverts are really annoying if you look at it on a phone, so maybe look at it on a laptop. It's actually got a something written out for you to send to your MP to ask to vote against it. I'm really hoping Labour will, because this is a Tory amendment and Labour got a 200-seat majority. Why the hell would they vote for this? But who knows at the moment, my friends? Who fucking knows? It's not looking good. What can I say? I'm going to go back to the papers now because I want to continue to talk about India for a moment, if you'll indulge me in that. So head over to the papers here. Message to Kia. Not good enough. Anger as Starmer rules out winter fuel U-turn. Miracles on the PM to rethink his decision. I think he should. But here's the thing, right? And I've said this before. I think it's ridiculous that if you are a retired millionaire and you live in Thailand, but you're still getting your state pension, which you can do if you live in a foreign country. If you've paid your stamp for 35 years, it's fine. You can do that, right? You can it doesn't matter. You can get your pension wherever you are in the world, pretty much. As long as I think if you surrender your British passport, you don't get it anymore. But like generally speaking, so you've got millionaire pensioners living in Thailand, the land of always summer, that are getting a winter fuel payment, and I think that is ridiculous. Where I think Labour have absolutely screwed the pooch on this is they have made the limit way too low. Way. It's like £11,000. If you got if you get less than £11,000 in your pension throughout the year, and any other money that comes in, if you're working part time, you don't get this winter fuel payment. And the Tories, they workshop this shit. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, well, we're going to give pensioners in this country the lowest pension in the whole of Europe, but we're going to earmark this little bit as a winter fuel payment. And it's great marketing. It's great advertising. These people know what they're doing. This is like Saatchi and Saatchi getting involved in politics and telling the Tories what to do, because the Tories are too thick to think of this stuff themselves, I'm sure. Labour just don't get it. Labour just don't understand the basics of fucking marketing stuff to people. And, if you've got to make someone take a cut of something or bring down the amount that they get overall compared with other countries, you've got to sweeten the deal. You've got to at least make people feel like they're better off. And Labour are so shit at this. It's painful. Don't forget, for the first few months after they won the election, they just went around going how awful everything is. God, everything's dreadful. Isn't everything really shit? Like, all the time. And I'm like, can you shut up about how shit it is and tell us how you're going to fucking improve it? My God. And eventually they just shut up about how shit everything was. But it was painful for a little while there. And then the Times here, NHS provides career advice on how to break vicious cycle of poverty. Patients are being given career and financial advice on NHS hospital wards to help break vicious cycle of severe mental health problems and unemployment. Good. All the help we can get, thank you. Gazing at art makes you see the big picture. Okay. And then anger at Indian payoff in biggest deal since Brexit. Free trade worth up to $5 billion for economy, but undercuts UK workers. So let's get into this, right? So this was the UK-India trade deal, the first trade deal that I think India's ever done. And it is a bit milky toast compared with what we had with the EU. Absolutely. And what I think this does brilliantly, is it just shows how right we were, how right I was when I said, try to explain to people, listen, dickhead, I've been to these places that you want to have trade deals with, and they're not going to buy much of our stuff. If you want to go into the history of why they're not going to buy much of our stuff, I can sit here and bore you for hours with the meticulous history of why Malawi, former Nyasaland, is not going to buy our stuff. It's just not going to happen. Shut up, go away. People are going, but the EU only represents a small portion of the world's population, and the vast majority of people are outside the EU. Yeah, the vast majority of people on this planet are relatively poor. And if we were creating, I don't know, cheap clothes, cheap electronics, we were growing cheap food for people to buy in developing nations, yeah, maybe we could have a trade deal and that'd be great, but we don't. We don't make any of that stuff, and we can't make any of that stuff. We just don't have the tools. We don't have we probably have the talent, but we can't pay people bugger all for making like a £2 t-shirt to sell to someone in Uganda. I mean, come on. Get a bit of, and you know what? Even if the landlocked country of Uganda was doing really well, was like, I don't know, the Dubai, the United Arab Emirates of Africa, right? Doing really, really well. There's huge, monuments and buildings being built in Kampala. It's fantastic, right? Great. How do we get our stuff there? Because at the moment, We can put 20,000 boxes on a boat, and we can take it over the channel to France or to Belgium. We can go to the North Sea. We can go to Rotterdam, the biggest port in the world, I think. We can take it to Germany. We can take it to Denmark. Really, really close. Within a few hours, you can get all that stuff over there. How'd you get stuff to Uganda? Come on, explain to me now how you get stuff. I'll tell you how you get stuff to Uganda. You've got to put it on a ship, Southampton or something. You take it down the coast, down through the Bay of Biscay, as Blair once sang, and then we go round the Iberian Peninsula. You go through the pillars of Hercules, the Ceuta and Gibraltar either side of you. You say hello to the pillars of Hercules, and you go into the Mediterranean. You go through the Mediterranean, and then you go into Port Said. Then you have to pay for your pilotage. You have to pay for your pilotage through the Suez Canal. And if you're late, you'll get a fine. I mean, 15 years ago, the ship that I was on, because it was 1 day late, it had to pay an extra $27,000. $27,000 because it was a day late getting its slot. It had a pilotage slot for a particular day. It was a day late, so it had to pay extra for a new day. Then you have to go through the area where there are Houthi rebels firing rockets at ships and Somali pirates, causing trouble as well. You got to go through there, and eventually, if you're doing really well, you're getting all down there, you'll get to, Kenya, Mombasa. You'll get to Mombasa in Kenya. Then you have to offload your stuff. But here's the thing, right? Mombasa's not a modern port in the way that you might be imagining it. It can take a long time to get the boxes off the ship. And sometimes the pilot doesn't want to come out unless you bribe them with a couple of bottles of whiskey. Or maybe when you come in, the stevedores don't want to work. It's their day off or whatever. It can take a long time to get those boxes off your ship that you're bringing from the UK to try and sell to people in Uganda. And then you've got to pay duties and taxes to Kenya to get it across Kenya, which is a bit of a process, let me tell you, into Uganda. And there's no waterway to do that. You can't leave them on the boat. You can't get those 20,000 containers on a boat to Uganda. There's no way of doing that. Maybe you could traverse the Nile, but unless you can think of a clever way to get your boat to literally float in the air, hop over various dams and cataracts on its way to Lake Victoria, good luck with that, dickheads. And it's like, how can they not see this? How can they not see that, Europe is just there? And the people who live in Europe, the majority of them are comparatively well off. And I'm not saying there's no poverty in Europe. Of course there is. But compare it to the rest of the world. Oh my God, you have no idea how good you have it in this particular part of the world. And here we have the absolute epitome of what I was saying back in 2016 and onwards. We have a trade deal with India. This is the first big trade deal that India's ever done. This is a trade deal with 1.4 billion people. Billion with a B. This is a big country. This is a huge country. It's worth £5 billion. £5 billion a year. So effectively, we're getting £4 a year from every Indian. From everyone in India. £4, that's it. That's what we're getting out of this deal. Yay? Win? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have done this deal. Absolutely, we should have. We should be doing deals with all countries for getting the duty down on whiskey, which was a huge thing that held up the EU's deal with India for many years, was the fact that there was a 500% tariff on Scotch whiskey. As Scotch whiskey is 20% of our food and drink export by value, that was a huge thing for us. We wanted to be able to sell whiskey to India. But here's the thing as well. A lot of places in India are dry. A lot of people in India are teetotal. you're not going to sell many of those bottles of whiskey to the 200 million plus Muslims who live in India. They don't drink whiskey. It's not going to happen. You're not going to sell anything to them. They're not going to buy it. So do you see how problematic it is when you sack off your nearest and dearest neighbours in order to go on some daft adventure around the world and get these amazing trade deals? Even if you get a decent trade deal with one of these countries like India, the amount they're going to buy off you is tiny. We're talking about a 0.01% increase on our GDP. And you know what? Every little helps. I completely get that. But the year-on-year knock that we've had from leaving the EU is 4%. 4%. 40 times the worth of this deal with India. And it pisses me off no end that there are so many people out there who are so adamant they know everything. They know all this stuff. They never admit they were wrong. I sometimes admit I'm wrong. I don't get everything right. I don't pretend to. I'm not the voice of authority on every bloody thing under the sun. No one can be. But I do my best with the information that is there. The information that I've got off my arse and bothered to go and find out myself about the not just politics and history, but about all the countries in the world. I've bothered to do that. I've got off my arse and I've not gone, do you know what? I'm going to leave it to Rupert Murdoch to do all my thinking for me. I can't be bothered. I'm going to leave it to Lord Rothermere to decide how I feel about things going on right now. Because I can't be bothered thinking for myself because I'm that lazy. And people like that are screaming in my face that we're going to, have these great trade deals. We're going to have these great trade deals with the rest of the world. Like the rest of the world is this nebulous fucking load of shit like that just exists outside of Europe. Who knows what's out there? Riches beyond measure. There's gold in them there hills. And I'm just like, what the hell, man? What the hell? You may have a degree in history and politics, Graham, and you may have been to every country in the world, but what you don't understand is, and then they repeat something that they read in the Daily Mail. Grrr! Brexit voters don't like it when you call them thick, so don't call them thick. Call them lazy. They can't be asked to think for themselves. UN Medsi, thank you very much to UN Medsi. You're all amazing. You matter, and I'm so proud of you. You are all amazing. Thank you for watching this show and wanting to know more about the world. So much for a paper review, you bastard, says. Why does Leipzig want the paper review? It's just going to be pictures of the royals. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this story here. Sorry, this one. I want to talk about this story here. The anger at Indian payoff after in biggest deal since Brexit. And so let's talk about the payoff for just a moment. I mean, you've been so generous with the super chats, so I will yammer on a little bit today, even though we do have Prime Minister's questions. So, there you go. You got the. I was right. Sorry, that wasn't supposed to come up again. I was wrong. So the problem that the gammon have got with this deal is that it means that if you are an Indian national who's been seconded to Britain to work for 2 or 3 years, you don't have to pay national insurance. You start to pay it in your own country. And conversely, if you are a British citizen, you don't have to pay national insurance or their equivalent of in India if you are seconded there for a couple of years, right? It's up to 3 years, and your employer doesn't have to pay national insurance, right? And so what they're saying is it's going to be more cost effective to bring people over from India and get them to work because then you don't have to pay the national insurance. This is such bullshit because no, it costs money to get people over from India and you have to pay for them to come over. And you've got to have people who are willing to come and live here for 2-3 years. And you've got to pay them at least national minimum wage. So they don't really have an edge over a British worker because the amount it costs to fly people over from India and send them back at the end of their secondment outweighs the amount that the employer will pay in national insurance on that employee in 2 years, which we wouldn't have to pay anyway. That's the weird thing. Like, what are they paying towards? National insurance is your stamp. It's the thing that's supposed to pay towards your pension. An Indian person who is here on an Indian passport, who's only going to be here for a couple of years, is not going to be getting a pension. So what's the point? What is the point of this? But obviously this is being trumped up by the Trump media, by the Murdoch media, by the other media, the Barclay media, who just want to, spread dissent and hatred all over the place. Graham, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. Keep ranting, my friend, says Alistair. Oh, thanks very much. I wish I had a Scottish accent. No one rants like the Scottish. Yeah, when like a Scottish person is proper going off on one. It's a beautiful thing to see. It really is. Like that noise, that fury that bubbles up from inside and comes out in this beautiful accent. I love it. It's poetry to me. Hearing a Scottish person going off on one, I love it. I love it. And I know that's a weird thing to love, but when someone's really passionate about something and they're giving it their all, it's a beautiful noise. It's a beautiful noise. Ori, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Just written to my MP about that amendment. It's being considered today. Yeah. So if you can get into your, if you can write something to your representative, your MP, this morning, that would be great. I really hope that it doesn't go through. Mr. Tusk says 27 says queues at German passport control long for non-EU. Yeah, because we have to get behind the family from Nigeria or Ghana or from Bangladesh or from some other country that's nowhere near Europe who needed a visa to get in. So they've got to check the visa. They've got to look it all up on the system. There might be a problem. Crazy. Anyway, we're going to go over to the Guardian now, and I'm going to give a content advisory at the moment. So if you're feeling a bit delicate, please just pause this and skip ahead a couple of minutes, okay? Because the image on the front cover of the Guardian is not a pleasant one. So content advisory from this moment on. Israeli minister says Gaza will be destroyed and people driven out. It's a really disturbing picture there of Palestinian children in Khan Yunis who were caught up in a crush trying to get hot meals. It's an awful, awful picture, and that doesn't resonate with people. I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know what's wrong with people who can look at a picture like that and just go, yeah, everything's fine. Gaza will be destroyed and people driven out. This is what an Israeli minister has said. Carney tells Trump cannons not to sail. We covered that yesterday in Geoscope. England faces drought as reservoir levels fall. Would be good if someone hadn't sold off our reservoirs, eh? This is Rihanna, pregnant at the top of the pops at the Met Gala there. Ryan Reynolds, I'm addicted to Rex. See what they've done there. He's happy about Wrexham. Did they get promoted again? Haven't they been promoted like 3 times in 3 years? It's quite impressive. Historic UK trade deal with India faces backlash over trade break for migrant workers. PM hails the biggest free trade agreement since Brexit, which is expected to add 55 billion a year to Britain's economy. I mean, it's better than the trade deal negotiated by the Tories, the Australian trade deal that meant that they could export as much beef as they liked to the UK, and we couldn't export any beef to them. Not even a soggy brisket. Yeah, what a deal. Thanks, Boris Johnson. Apparently written up in the toilet, from what I've heard. Great deal. Or maybe it was the deal that they did with Papua New Guinea. Yay. Anyway, UK consumers set to benefit from cheaper imports such as clothing, footwear, and frozen prawns. But Labour faces storm after Reform and Tories criticised deal for allowing some Indian workers in the UK to be exempted from employer and employee national insurance contributions for 3 years. And they're doing this 2-tier Kia thing again. You know what the real 2-tier system is? Private school mafia. The private school mafia. Can we just take a second? Can we just take a second to just go to the private school mafia here? Oh, it says forbidden. Oh, God. Why has my private school mafia site gone down? What is happening right now? I've been attacked. Been attacked by the Ruskies again. Oh, my website's down. I'll have to fix that. Oh, well, you won't get to see that. Never mind. Historic UK trade deal with India faces backlash. I've read that. No major changes to immigration system on the deal. Says government with visa numbers capped. Now, you have to understand, This is a major, major climb down by India. One of the big bugbears, one of the reasons why we didn't get a deal when we were part of the EU with India, and why this deal has taken so long, is because India was really pushing and pushing and pushing to lift the cap on Indian visas for Indian people to come to the UK, and that hasn't been done. That hasn't been done. The concession that's been made is that if you are working here for 2 or 3 years, and you are seconded by a British company or an Indian company to work in the UK, you and your employer don't have to pay national insurance for the first 3 years. Anything longer than that, you do have to pay for it. You have to pay into a pension fund that you will never use. And then we've got the Telegraph obviously picking up on this 2-tier tax deal for Indian migrants. Starmer betrays Britain with agreement that accepts Solomon staff from paying NI, which is disingenuous at best and just misleading at worst, because it is not. That's not quite the case. There's a picture of someone from the family. Hurrah! Thank God. I thought we were going to go a whole day without seeing someone from that family that we're obsessed with, from number 42. Thank God there's a picture of them. And Houthis agreed to stop the bombs, says Trump. Donald Trump says the US will stop bombing Yemen's Houthi rebels after claiming to have struck a deal with the Iran-backed terror group. Yeah, like he struck a deal with Putin. Like he struck a deal with the Israeli government. Okay, whatever. And then Alison Pearson there, saying we are not worthy of the sacrifices made 80 years ago. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. Oh, piss off. Right. Labour tax break for Indian workers. You see how this is all put out. This is the way they sell it. What Nicole Kidman was hiding at the Met Gala. Okay. Tories blast Starmer Delhi trade deal that will make it cheaper to employ foreign staff. It won't, because you still got to get them over here. Still got to get them over here, mate. Still got to get them over here. Reverse fuel pay cut for OAPs now, despite growing calls for future restoration of winter allowance. Number 10 resists U-turn. Labour turmoil over cuts in winter fuel payments for pensioners deepened last night as Sir Keir Starmer ruled out a U-turn, which I think is a stupid thing to do. And there's a woman from the family. I think she's the granny or something. She's from the family. Very important that we see a picture of the family there on the front cover of the Daily Express. Oh, I realised that it's gone over to one side. Why has it gone over to one side? I didn't do that. I didn't think I did that. Oh, I must have done it. I must have done it like an idiot. Hang on. Moving me morning brew thing there. Don't want to be doing that. There we go. Is that it? Is that it? Oh, sorry. Just moving it across. Put it back in place. Must have moved it. So here's the other thing about this lie about the Indian people, 2-tier Keir and all this bullshit, right? Like, the numbers on visas are still capped. Like, there's only X amount of Indian workers who are going to be allowed to come over here. And once that visa for Indian citizens is reached, they're not going to issue any more. And also, Britain very much controls those visas if it decides not to issue a visa because it's someone coming over who can do a job that a British person should be doing. The British government can say no, or the British bureaucracy can say no. Yeah, when you apply for a visa, you're only applying for it. You don't necessarily get it. And there's an awful story on the front cover of the Metro about the 2 super bikers who died in a absolutely horrific 11 bike pile-up on the first corner of a motorbike race at the weekend. Yeah, it's really horrible. One of the kids was only aged about, he was in his early 20s, I think. He was 21. Owen Jenner, 21. Really, really sad story. And then we've got the meeting of the sensible with the absolute fucking clanging dickhead that is Donald Trump. No sale, Carney firm with Trump, which he was. Exit Musk, wounded by his own chainsaw. So it looks like Musk is on his way out, hopefully, of everything. That would be nice. It would be really nice if Elon Musk just stopped. US trade pact draws near after accord on lower levy quotas for cars and steel. Deal signing this week, bid to ease liberation tariffs pharmaceuticals an obstacle. There's been no concession on food, so this deal is a bit of a shit deal. Of course it is. It was always going to be a shit deal with Trump. And Merz secures German chancellorship, but voting exposes coalition's fragility. When I was writing me notes for Geoscope yesterday, this is quite funny. I put in that Merz had lost because it's like the week before. It's all the stuff that's happened around the world the week before, and I put that Merz had lost the vote to become chancellor in the German Parliament, and as I was saying it, I looked it up on one of the live tweets, and like 3 hours earlier they had done a vote, and he'd been elected by like 6 votes or something. I was like, you got to stay up to date. This is the difficulty with doing these shows, and it's also why these shows have a very limited shelf life, because who's going to watch a show about something that's happened today in a week's time? They're just not, news moves on. I'm painting myself into a bit of a corner here. Not as much of a corner, perhaps, as three blokes in a pub, which required a pub and 3 blokes, which is very hard to get at short notice. Usually it was 2 blokes in a cafe, or a bloke and a woman and in a pub, but outside the pub because it was too noisy in the pub and didn't have very good Wi-Fi. Anyway, moving on. Luna says, sex matters. The government has said it supports the findings of the Sullivan Review on sex data and will implement it. That is really shit news, Luna. It's just, I don't know what the government is thinking right now. I really don't. They don't understand what a contentious issue this is, and the fact it's not going to go away. Like, what do they expect? Do the old trans people are going to go, oh, yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah. I'll be a second-class citizen. That's fine. Yeah. Talk about two-tier skier. It's all about two-tier skier. It's not about, law, justice, whatever. About people coming from India on visas. No, it's not about that. It's about trans people. They're being made into second-class citizens by this government that should be a left-wing progressive government. And they seem to be, on these social issues, more right than the Tories. And I've met Labour people, like high up in the Labour Party, who were massive TERFs, who were just like, you ask them the question, like, okay, so if you don't want trans women using the women's toilets, and that's some obsession that keeps you awake at night, like, where do you want them to go? And do you know what the reply was? I don't care. It's nothing to do with me. I don't care. Because I'm not trans. Where the black people supposed to go to the toilet? I don't care. I'm not black. My God. Labour is cooked. NC21 will pass. I really, really hope it doesn't. And if it does, there needs to be a rebellion against what Labour are doing like we've never seen before. Jay says, what band of BMX bikes from the 80s do you like? I miss my old Hutch Wins style. I like the old Chopper. Get yourself that wasn't a BMX. Rally Chopper. That was a bike. That was a bike to be reckoned with. It wasn't a BMX. I've heard this several times now. TERF, what exactly is it? Well, originally it stood for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, but we like to think that it stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Fascists, because it's people who just really hate people who are trans, and they lay awake all night, crying tears of absolute sorrow that trans people exist. But here's the thing: trans people are always going to exist. They're like left-handed people; they're always going to exist. You can try and keep them down. You can try and make their lives a misery, but there's still going to be more trans people. You can deport all the trans people you like to the Falklands or to Rwanda. There'll still be trans people. So trying to get rid of all the gay people. It's like, it's not going to happen. You can't get rid of them. They're just, the more will crop up. Jesus. If cisgender people don't like trans people, they should stop having trans kids. Katrina Tam, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. It's very kind of you. So guess how many times I saw students and students trying to sell me illegal drugs during my first term at private school compared to 8+ years of state school. 10+ times private, 0 times at state. That doesn't surprise me. I'm talking about people being cooked. I think that the cooked is in COOK, like off the head. The Tories are on drugs. If you want to explain what happened from the 1980s to now, I can sum it up in one word if you want. Cocaine. That's what happened. Cocaine. Optimistic nihilist. This is why I've left Labour and joined the Green Party. We need to put pressure on Labour and return to the left and not veer to the right, but continuing to vote for them regardless. I mean, look, the Labour need pressure putting on them by everyone, and I'm still a member of Labour. Tansky isn't. Even Phil Morehouse has left. But I'm staying in there, and I'm going to make a real effort at the party conference in Liverpool in September to talk to as many people as I can about trans rights, because they aren't listening. They just aren't listening. And the worry is that they don't seem to realise what a trap this is that the Tories and the Refork and the Heritage Foundation and 55 Tufton Street have set up for them. And the trap is, I've explained it a million times on this channel already, you go after trans rights, goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rules in favour of the Heritage Foundation. It goes to the European Court of Human Rights. They find in favour of trans people and their rights and dignity. Of course they will. And off the back of that, you have the newspapers. You've seen what they're like over this Indian trade deal. If it was the Tories who got that Indian trade deal, it would be like India, bonanza. What they would do is exactly what they did when we became part of the Pacific deal, the CTTP, TCP, CPPP deal. When we became part of that, they added together the GDPs of all the countries in that deal, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and they added them together. They took them all, they added them together, and they came up with like, this trade deal's worth 12 trillion pounds. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. What the hell? Are we going to take all of the money, all of everything, all the houses, all the infrastructure, all the buildings, all the riches, all the jewelry, all the things that are built, all the food, everything? We're going to take it from the country. That's what we're going to get from this trade deal. It's not how it works. But if you're a dickhead, you might believe that. If it was the Tories who had got this trade deal across the line, it would have been put in the newspapers. I'll tell you this now. What's the GDP of India right now? What is it? About 3.5 trillion, is it? Let me see. 3.5 trillion. Oh, I just looked that up. I'm sorry, but just off the top of my head, I'm gonna have to give myself an I was right for that, because I said 3.5 trillion. It's 3.56 trillion. So they would have had on the front cover of the newspapers $3.5 trillion $3.5 trillion trade deal with India, and it would be have Suella Braverman or Kemi Badenoch or Rishi Sunak thumbs up. Didn't happen though, did it? Labour did it. So instead of it being oh my God, post-Brexit, trade bonanza, they're like, oh, well, it's only going to be 0.1%. Yeah, that's all it's going to be. 0.01%, sorry, 0.1%. That's, I'm up by a magnitude. 0.01%. Bloody hell. So actually, I said 40 times more what we've lost from That's actually 400, isn't it? Jesus, what? 400th of what we were getting from our trade with the EU, when we remember. 400th. Oh my God, that's insane, isn't it? Number 3, you're a magician, Graham. Superpowers. Wow. Educated guess. I knew it was more than the UK, and the UK is around 3.1. So yeah, it's just ingenuous at best. But yeah, to go back to the European Court of Human Rights, when they rule in favour of trans people, which of course they will do, the Civitas and the International, what's it called, Economic League or whatever the fuck they call it, the LGB Alliance, all these horrible little mysteriously funded think tanks that operate out of 55 Tufton Street, and their interlocutors, they're people who are in charge of shit, their familiars. They will go out and say, hey, you know what? Amazing, right? This foreign court, listen to us, the foreign court is telling our courts what to do. I think we should pull out the foreign court. And for your average lazy ass dickhead on the streets of the United Kingdom, they'll be like, what? A foreign court told our courts what to do? We should pull out of this foreign court. It's not a foreign court. It's a European court. We're part of Europe. We're one of the founders of the European Court of Human Rights. And what they're going to lose is not a foreign court. They're going to lose the human rights, something that the rich don't give a fuck about. The rich don't care about the NHS. The rich don't care about your job or your well-being or your pension or your friends or your family or your life is worthless to them. Unless you give them lots of money for their shit that they serve as a monopoly. Can't go anywhere else. Can't do anything. Can't leave. Can't explore your own continent anymore unless you're, on at least 50 grand a year. Thanks for that. Cheers for that. No more cheap flights to Vienna or to Prague or to Barcelona. No, thanks for that. When you get there, got to stand in the queue for 2 hours to get through the passport control. Thanks for that. My God. Joanna, citing Article 51 of the UN Charter, Pakistan has asserted its right to self-defense and warned it reserves the right to respond to India at any time and place and manner of its choosing. Yeah. It's the old adage of hide the bad, sell the good. Indeed it is. I had a mongoose when I was younger, says UN Medsy. That's pretty cool. They eat snakes, don't they? They're nuts. I love them. With large enough mob, may start caring about human rights. Yeah. One of the things that I've seen over the last month since this disgusting Supreme Court ruling is a lot of people who stayed quiet on trans rights in the past because they didn't feel like it was their place to say anything. And also they were scared of the TERFs turning up and just being absolutely horrible because honestly, TERFs are the most horrible people I've ever met. I've never met people who have been that bigoted and prejudiced, not just against trans people, but against gay people, against, they've been ableist, they've been disgustingly ableist. The things that they come out with about autistic people, Asperger's or ADHD, the things these people say are just, oh my God, it's like you're being transported to like the 1950s when those kind of attitudes were acceptable and we forced all the left-handed people to write with their left hand. And that is disturbing. It's 2025. We should be better than this. We should have left all this prejudice and bullshit way back in the past, but we didn't. Anyway, I've gone 40 minutes over time, but I was a bit late getting started, so it's actually only 32 minutes over time. But I've got to get prepped for Prime Minister's questions. I think about this, like getting prepped for these shows every day. It's like it's like having to deliver a speech in front of people like every single day of my life. I've got to think of something to talk about for an hour. And yeah, it's maddening that I can do this. It's not maddening I can do it, but like it's maddening that I can do this. Like I've shown I can do it. And yet when I went to Labour and said, hey, do you want some help with your old social media stuff? They're like, no. I read a really good article yesterday. I watched, didn't read it. I watched it on TLDR, TLDR. Too long, didn't read. News, which I really recommend that you have get a subscription to because they are good. And they were talking about Claudia Sheinbaum, who is the president of Mexico, and how she's like the most popular leader in the world. She has an approval rating of like over 80%. I think she's like one of the most popular leaders in history. That's not a leader of one of these countries where you have to love dear leader or you get sent off to a gulag. The most popular leader of democracy, let's say. And what she does every morning is she has a press conference. She has a press conference every morning for an hour. She goes and stands in front of the press and talks about the agenda for the day and what they're planning to do, takes questions from journalists, and man, it makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. Why don't Labour do that? Every morning, Keir Starmer, I'd have to move this time of this show to somewhere else, but 9 o'clock every morning, him or one of his cabinet ministers stands up and, Johnny Reynolds could have done it this morning and talks about the Indian trade deal. The next day it could be Angela Rayner. Next day it could be Keir Starmer. And you do it every morning, 9 o'clock. It's all set up at the House of the the Palace of Westminster, Westminster, you find somewhere, for this to happen. You don't need to spend loads of money on it. Like the Tories did a press conference room, didn't they? And they spent like £1 million on it, and it all went to like Russian contractors. Do you remember that? Bloody hell! It seems like a fever dream now. But yeah, it's weird the way that Labour seem to think they can like operate in the shadows. It's like, what are you even thinking? The YouTube's been around for 20 years, guys. Get with the system. Stream your shit on YouTube every day. Stream your shit. But no, they just want people to find out what's going on through the newspapers, which are owned by Rothermere and Barclay and Murdoch and other fucking tyrant billionaires who live in different countries. And get it all their information they need to know from Farage and his multiple appearances on GB News, the BBC, Question Time. Oh, he's being interviewed on Channel 4 News. Oh, he's been interviewed on this. I'm seeing people whinging about the Greens not being interviewed on stuff. Yeah, get more interesting, Greens. Come on, fuck me. Like, seriously? Just come here, Greens. Do interesting stuff, all right? You see how Ed Davey did those stunts and fell off a fucking, wakeboard or something on Lake Windermere, right? Do shit like that, okay? All right, just do stuff that'll get you in the news. Because going up to someone in a pub while they're having a pint and saying, I want to tell you about the circulating North Atlantic current, which is problematic because of the increase in salinity and oxidization of the ocean. Mate, they're just going to walk off. Hey, show them a magic trick. They might buy you a drink. I don't know. Just be interesting. And that's the thing. Farage, I hate him. I absolutely hate him. I look forward to the day it happens. Trump, I hate him even more. I look forward to the day it happens. Elon Musk, oh my God, I wish he would just stop. Entirely. But I cannot, in good faith, say that they're not interesting. They are fucking interesting. They're interesting people. That what they're doing is horrible, but they're interesting. They can command an audience. They don't sound like John Major's spitting image puppet by way of Roger Irrelevant from The Viz. Keir Starmer. Angela Rayner, she's great when she's like, loosen the ties, the bond or whatever it is that stops Angela Rayner just being herself in press conferences. Last year, during the run up to the election, we were doing watch parties on the channel, and whenever Angela Rayner was on, I was like, "Oh, great, Angela Rayner!" I've seen her do these debates before. I went to see there was an Anything But Brexit debate for Channel 4 that was shot in Leeds, and I was in the audience for that. And Angela Rayner was really impressive because she was just talking from the heart. She was just talking like I am now, like you and me, just having a chat. But in the run-up to the election, she was like a rabbit in headlights. She was reading off the auto cue like this. Or like maybe they didn't have an auto cue. Maybe she'd like rehearse the lines that she was going to say over and over again. And then just delivered the lines in the most wooden and unconvincing way possible. Clearly thinking what the next word will be. Vote Labour. And it's kind of depressing to watch, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? It's like someone who's a great piano player and you go along to a concert and they're playing fucking chopsticks. And you're like, what are you doing? You got a talent. Fucking use it. You got a connection. Especially with people up north. She's a gobby ginger northerner. How could I not feel a connection with that? And yet Labour are so terrified. Keir Starmer looks like a rabbit in headlights all the time. Angela Rayner, rabbit in headlights. Rachel Reeves, rabbit in headlights. I mean, Jesus Christ. Get going with some kind of format where every day you do something. It goes out on social media, on all different channels. People can clip it up if they want to. Get your most entertaining MPs to lead it. Get Clive Lewis, who's fucking brilliant. Get Jess Phillips. Get people like that to talk about their particular thing each day. This isn't rocket science. You don't need to buy a news channel like what Refuck did with GB News, just put it out on YouTube. Just do it. And yeah, but we only get a few hundred people watching. Yeah, but if you do something interesting, it'll get clipped up. That clip of you saying that thing will go on all the international news around the world if you say something that's interesting enough. Or mad enough, I guess. Don't go mad, please. That's a joke. But, just ABI, always be interesting. Christ's sake, Labour. And just stop this rampant fucking transphobia. It's not going to get you anywhere. Labour, you're going to lose the next election. I don't care what the polling says, what the statistics say. Doesn't matter. The way Labour's going about things at the moment, they're going to lose the next election, and they really need to turn things around. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed our conversation this morning. We covered many topics, mostly about Kashmir for the first hour, but then we moved on to other stuff. Thank you so much for the super chats. It's very kind of you. Thanks to everyone who left some words of wisdom in the chat there. Thanks for not being a troll. And in general, thanks for being a beautiful person. Thanks for actually caring about the world and our country and your neighbours and the future. And finally, just I just want to say thanks for being you. And keep on keeping on. Because we need you. We need you. I understand completely why people might want to be leaving at the moment. And if that's their choice, that's cool. Please do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. Help yourself before you help others. But if you're in a position where you can help others right now, please help. Stay here and build a better Britain. Because if we leave, then we can have this idea that, we'll just leave it to the gammon to eat each other. But that's not really what's going to happen. Think about it. You're going to have a lot of people who can't leave, who are trapped here with the gam-gams, with no one championing them. No one sticking up for their rights. No one sticking up for their dignity. So please, keep doing what you're doing. Support other channels, not just this one, with your eyeballs and with subscriptions. Really, really recommend Aid Thompson. Supertansky, you probably already subscribe to, and also the Bin podcast. They put out a lot of stuff, the Bin podcast, and they've only got a small number of subscribers. So if you can help enrich their subscriber base, that would be awesome. And Rob Wales. Oh, thank you very much, Rob Wales. That's a great name, isn't it? Let's go, Rob Wales. Thank you for standing up for trans rights. You're very welcome, and thank you for the super chat, and thank you for standing up for trans rights as well. Because we need to speak up on behalf of this minority. It's a tiny minority of the population, and they don't have the political muscle or the funding that the other side do. So when people start talking about the transgender lobby, and I'm like, kidding me, aren't you? Anyway, right. I'm going to move off now. I'll be back at 12 o'clock for PMQs in about an hour and 10 minutes. So until then, say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.